Commissioned on January 31st, 1944, the Franklin was nearly 900 feet of floating power, a city of men, machines, and dreams. Her decks were alive with the hum of engines, her hangars filled with the thunder of F-6F Hellcats, SB-2C Helldivers, and TBF Avengers. The iron wings that would strike across the Pacific. Her crew, over 3,000 strong, young men from farms, cities, and towns that few maps could find. Boys who would grow old too soon under the shadow of the rising sun. They called her Big Ben, a name spoken with affection and, in time, reverence. In June 1944, the Franklin joined the Pacific Fleet, her destination, the Mariana Islands, Saipan, Tinian, Guam, names that would carve their place in fire and blood. The Franklin's air group struck relentlessly, flattening airfields, torching fuel depots, hunting ships that scattered beneath her fury. In the skies above the Pacific, the roar of her aircraft became a new language, the voice of American power echoing over enemy shores. Her pilots, like Commander Joe Carmichael and Lieutenant Commander Joseph Taylor, learned the art of death and the price of survival. Each sortie came with the same question whispered across the ready room. Will I see the deck again? By October 1944, the Franklin steamed with Task Group 38.4, part of the great naval armada unleashed for the Battle of Leyte Gulf. The Japanese Empire was desperate now, their fleet fractured, their skies bleeding pilots. But desperation breeds courage and vengeance. On October 30th, the calm morning shattered. From the clouds, a lone Yokosuka D-4Y Judy dive bomber appeared. It dove straight from the sun, unseen until it screamed over the bow. Explosion, roaring fire, alarms, men shouting, "Fire on the hangar deck!" A single bomb struck the Franklin's flight deck, tearing through steel and into her hangar, where fueled aircraft waited, armed and ready. The blast ignited a storm. Gasoline geysered into flame. Ordnance cooked off in rapid, deafening succession. The carrier that had been a fortress became a furnace. Dozens were killed instantly. Others fought blindly through smoke, dragging brothers from the inferno, their skin blistered, lungs filled with fire. But the ship, Big Ben, would not die. For 9 relentless hours, the crew battled the flames. Men collapsed, rose again, and kept fighting. Not for glory, but for each other. When the smoke finally cleared, the Franklin was crippled. Her decks charred, her aircraft destroyed. Yet she stayed afloat, defiant, wounded, unbroken. She limped back across the Pacific to Pearl Harbor, escorted by ships that saluted her as she passed. A ghost of battle still alive. There amid the quiet hum of the shipyard, they rebuilt her, piece by piece, plate by plate, as if the sea itself had demanded she return to finish her story. By January 1945, Big Ben was reborn. Her scars hidden beneath fresh steel, her crew seasoned by fire, and her spirit unyielding. Her next mission? To strike the Japanese home islands. The closest any U.S. carrier would dare to come. A mission so dangerous, it felt like fate was calling her name. The Franklin's men didn't know it, but destiny was already writing their next chapter. A chapter of fire, heroism, and unimaginable survival. Because soon, the sun would rise on the 19th of March, 1945, and Big Ben would face the gates of hell itself. It is March 19th, 1945. The sea is calm, the sky is pale with dawn. 50 miles off the coast of Japan, the USS Franklin stands alone, the northernmost American carrier, daringly close to the enemy homeland. Below deck, sailors eat breakfast. In the hangars, flight crews prepare aircraft for the morning strike on Honshu. The Franklin hums with the familiar rhythm of war. The smell of oil, steel, and salt mixing with the sharp tang of gasoline. Aboard, more than 3,000 men breathe the same heavy air, unaware that within minutes, their ship will become a living hell. At 7:08 a.m., radar picks up a single echo, faint, fast-moving, a blip dismissed as friendly. But out of the clouds above the Franklin's flight path, a lone Yokosuka D-4Y Judy dive bomber descends, unseen against the morning sun. Its pilot, Lieutenant Commander Kikuichi Takahashi, carries death beneath his wings. He dives steep and silent. No warning, no time. Two bombs fall. Swift, precise, merciless. A sudden roaring explosion. Shock waves ripple through the soundscape. The first bomb slams through the flight deck near the aft elevator, ripping through fueled aircraft lined up for launch. The second plunges into the hangar deck, detonating amidst rows of armed planes. In an instant, the Franklin erupts into chaos. The ship that had carried wings now carries fire. Bombs, rockets, and torpedoes, thousands of pounds of ordnance, cook off one by one. Explosions ripple through her decks like thunder through the veins of a god. Men are hurled into the sea, others vanish in blinding light. Steel twists, bulkheads buckle, flames leap 30 feet high. The first explosions claim hundreds. The second wave kills hundreds more. Bodies, debris, and aircraft parts rain down across the carrier's deck. A storm of metal and flesh. Below decks, darkness. Smoke fills every corridor. Men crawl through passageways lit only by the glow of fire and molten steel, breathing through rags soaked in their own sweat and blood. In the heart of the inferno walks Lieutenant Commander Joseph T. O'Callahan, the ship's Catholic chaplain. Through smoke and flames, he moves with no weapon, only a Bible and boundless faith. He prays over the dying, comforts the wounded, then turns to lift 500-pound bombs away from the fire with his bare hands. Each second could end his life. Each prayer becomes a breath of courage. He guides firefighting crews, coordinates rescue lines, and stands on the flaming flight deck waving others to safety. By day's end, his hair is singed, his clothes burnt through. But he never leaves his men. For this, he will receive the Medal of Honor, but in that moment, he asks for no glory. He is simply human light amid inhuman darkness. Amid the chaos, another hero emerges, Lieutenant Junior Grade Donald Gary, trapped below deck with nearly 300 men, smoke and fire sealing every escape. The air grows thin. The temperature rises past survival. Some begin to pray, others to panic. Gary refuses. He gropes through black corridors, finds a narrow crawl space leading upward, a passage no man believes could hold. He goes alone first, burns his hands, bruises his ribs, nearly faints, but finds the way. Then he returns again and again, leading groups through that same path to salvation. All 300 men saved. For this, too, a Medal of Honor, and the eternal gratitude of those who breathed again. But the fire will not yield easily. At one point, the Franklin's own ammunition detonates, blasting aircraft and men into the sea. The order comes to abandon ship. Many obey. Hundreds leap from the flaming decks, some never to return. But hundreds more stay. They form firefighting crews that carry hoses, dump ammunition overboard, and hold the line for a ship that many already consider dead. Every man on that deck knows the truth. If the flames reach the magazines below, Big Ben will vanish in a single colossal blast. And still, they fight. Nearby, the light cruiser USS Santa Fe turns toward the smoke. Her captain, Harold C. Fitz, orders full speed ahead, straight into danger. Ignoring exploding debris, the Santa Fe pulls alongside the burning carrier. Her crew stretch hoses across open sea, fighting the fire that isn't theirs. They take aboard the wounded, some burned beyond recognition, some clutching metals melted into their flesh. Together, ship beside ship, they battle death. One pouring water, the other bleeding flame. At 9:45 a.m., after hours of relentless destruction, Captain Leslie E. Gary stands amid smoke and chaos and gives one command. Simple, impossible, unforgettable. We will save this ship. And they do. Slowly, painfully, the flames begin to yield. One by one, fires are choked out, decks cooled, ammunition secured. The Franklin lists heavily, her decks blackened, but she still floats, a scarred titan that refuses to bow. When the last embers fade, the scale of the tragedy becomes clear. Over 800 men lie dead or missing. Hundreds more are maimed, burned, broken. The decks are a cemetery. Yet through that horror, the USS Franklin remains afloat. The ship that should have died, lives. The destroyer USS Miller and cruiser USS Pittsburgh arrive. They throw lines, brace cables, and begin the impossible task. Towing the Franklin home across thousands of miles of open ocean. As she moves, wounded and silent, sailors aboard other ships line their rails and salute. They remove their caps. Even hardened veterans weep at the sight, a burned carrier moving proudly against the wind. She is no longer just a ship. She is a symbol of courage, of endurance, of the unbreakable heart of those who serve. The USS Franklin scorched, shattered, but undefeated, heads for Pearl Harbor. Her crew, fewer now, carry ghosts beside them. They will soon learn that surviving the flames was only half their battle. The inferno has ended. Smoke drifts like ghosts over a blackened deck. The sea, once reflecting sunrise, now mirrors only ash and memory. Yet still she floats. USS Franklin, scarred and silent, alive against all odds. She has endured 2 direct bomb hits, dozens of secondary explosions, and more than 800 dead. But the heart of her crew still beats. Her captain, Leslie E. Garys, stands at the bridge. A man unshaken, proud, and consumed by the weight of command. To him, abandoning ship is defeat. Survival is duty. When Santa Fe and Pittsburgh arrive, they find the Franklin crippled, powerless, drifting on the edge of death. And yet, when others would have scuttled her to the deep, Captain Garys refuses. He signals, "We will bring our ship home." It sounds less like an order and more like a prayer. The cruiser Pittsburgh takes her in tow. Line by line, steel against steel, the battered carrier begins her slow crawl across the Pacific. At 1 knot, then 2, dragging her wrecked body towards safety. Fires smolder deep within her hull. Each gust of wind carries the stench of burned paint, oil, and human loss. Yet the men who remain refuse to rest. They patch holes with scrap metal, bale seawater by hand, and scavenge parts from the dead to keep the living alive. For days, they are alone with their ghosts. The sea stretches endless, the horizon indifferent. The men speak little. They work, they clean, they search for names among the missing. Each locker opened becomes a memorial. Each uniform folded, a farewell. At night, some hear the echoes. The blast that woke them, the screams in the smoke, the prayers in the dark. They call her Big Ben still, but now it feels like a name for something greater, a monument, a soul forged in fire. When at last she reaches Pearl Harbor, she is barely recognizable. A skeleton of the proud carrier she once was. The Franklin lists to starboard, her decks warped and twisted, her paint scorched to the steel beneath. And yet, she is alive. Crowds gather at the harbor as she limps in. Sailors line the rails in silent salute. There are no cheers, no celebration, only awe. Because every man watching knows what it took for this ship to reach home. But even survival has its shadows. Captain Garys, proud of the miracle he led, looks upon those who abandoned ship with suspicion. He accuses some of desertion. A wound that would divide the Franklin's crew long after the war. Men who had leapt from burning decks to escape certain death now face the judgment of command. It was a bitterness few could speak of, and fewer could forgive. The Franklin would never see combat again. She was too damaged, too scarred to return to the front. But her story became legend. The ship that refused to die, the crew that fought fire, fear, and fate itself. Her chaplain, Joseph O'Callaghan, became the first Navy chaplain to receive the Medal of Honor. Her officer, Donald Gary, too, for saving 300 souls from the flames below. And the rest, thousands of names, known and unknown, carried home the invisible weight of survival. In time, her decks would be stripped, her guns dismantled, her hull left to rust in still waters. But her name, USS Franklin, remains etched in the hearts of those who understand what it means. To fight when there is no hope, to stand when the world burns around you. She is the sound of courage, the silence after chaos, the heartbeat of a ship that should have perished, but did not. Today, in museums and memories, her story still breathes. In black and white photographs, you can see the smoke, the flame, the faces, but listen closer, and you might hear the faint whisper of steel and sea. The voice of Big Ben telling us all the same truth. I lived.